Hi again. We have a sunbathing Kit Kat and me. So this is the segment titled The Cultures of Nature. Okay. Just under a decade ago, I was traveling in the high altitude desert mountains of Ladakh, India, with Journeys with Meaning, a responsible tourism group led by a dear friend of mine, Vinod Sridhar. Ladakh is one of the poster children for the negative impacts of capitalism on culture because its extreme terrain made it inaccessible to the global market for a long time. Nestled high in the young, jagged Himalayan mountain range, Ladakh is on the ancient Silk Route. In recent times, Ladakh has become the site for the Chinese and Indian governments to flex their techno-military might in a fight over the nation-state borders. The relatively recent flood of tourism has brought a very different kind of cultural, economic, and ecological exchange than from Silk Road days. Helena Norberg Hodge, author of Ancient Futures, is a Swedish-born linguist who wrote about the effects of globalization on the Ladakhi people, critiquing development and its negative impact on people and places. When I was there in 2009, I got to meet Helena and interestingly enough, various other scholars, mostly anthropologists. You don't often find anthropologists, so this was a treat. We all seemed to be there soul-searching, looking for proof that there was something to life beyond what the city afforded us, that we had a role to play in remote rural places like Ladakh, and that we had a lot to learn from Ladakh and its people. Having set my academic course for studying anthropology the next year, I wanted to connect with some of Ladakh's indigenous people. I'd already learnt about the criminalization of nomadic ways of life from the Narikuravas or the fox hunters in the southeastern coastal city of Chennai. So the local ecological tour guide took me to meet some of the Champas near Tsomoriri, a gorgeous lake surrounded by a marshland with a big sign that proclaimed in English, "This is a World Wildlife Fund protected site for endangered ground nesting bird habitat." We continued to walk towards the yurts in the distance. My guide translated my questions. I heard about their recent struggles finding adequate grazing spots for their yak, donkeys, and goats because of the WWF's preservation efforts for the ground nesting bird. This I found highly problematic because it is obvious that any one of the folks involved with WWF policy lead far more environmentally destructive lives than all of these Changpa put together. Yet it is the economically poor and culturally marginalized peoples whose lifeways are criminalized and whose access to land is constrained. So familiar. The same was true for the fox hunters in Chennai. I had briefly tracked their desperate moves to be reclassified from other backward classes, or OBC, to scheduled tribes, or ST. This was back in journalism school in 2005 when I was in Chennai. I'm happy that they finally got their scheduled tribe status in 2016, but at the same time, I wonder whether actual opportunity and change is accessible to them. Also, I find it problematic that our education system in India is mostly still based on Western thought, knowledge power, and therefore reinforces notions of progress and development that are cultural impositions. A more equity-based educational framework would ensure that these fox hunters maintained and hopefully integrated their place-based skills of hunting and beadwork into modern times more successfully, I think. In an ideal world, they would not have had to settle into permanent housing and give up their nomadic lifestyle either. Unfortunately, for a substantial period of time, neither the development nor the environmental movement have supported the rich cultural diversity around land stewardship that supported some of the most unique and biodiverse areas on the planet, including Ladakh. I wonder how much longer the Changpa will withstand the double onslaught of development and followed by environmentalism. Will the time come when their way of life will be completely criminalized? Will they then become dependent on the modern economy for their basic needs? Will this lead to them giving up their nomadic lifestyle and settling? Even when it comes to the more urban issues in Ladakh, rapid change is underway. What options and opportunities exist for place based people to integrate with the modern economy in ways that do not undermine their access to land and lifeways? A route to retaining one's traditional ecological knowledge while still integrating with the modern economy is through ecotourism. My host, Stanzin Odza, is the owner of Ecological Footprints, a Ladakhi run and owned ecotourism agency. This business affords him the ability to remain connected to the land and to be invested in its health while it is his livelihood. And while ecotourism is riddled with challenges including the deepening of economic disparities, increased pollution, and in my experience, the psychological colonization of the youth who begin to emulate and aspire to be white, I still believe that there's so much potential for it to be a transformative change agent that enhances place-based harmony. And luckily we have a few of those experiments happening in Ladakh.